Okay, I think we can start now. So yeah, hello and welcome to everyone to today's webinar about SAP Datasphere and SAP Analytics Cloud feature update for the latest QRC release. If there are any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to write them into the chat, and we will then at the end of our webinar have a Q&A session where we can answer all of your questions. And yeah, with that, I directly want to hand over to you, Kirsten.
Thank you, Katrin, and also welcome from my side. I just want to give a few, just again at the beginning, just let you know who we are, who's S-Peers and Katrin and I. Then we will start with the Datasphere feature update, and then we will have the SAC updates. And as Katrin said, we have the Q&A at the end, so feel free to use the chat. So who we are and who's S-Peers. So S-Peers is a high specialized consulting firm with the expertise in SAP Analytics, for example, SAC and Datasphere, and also the Google Cloud transformations. We are building for our customers highly analytical enterprise platforms. So we are implementing from data integration and data management to information access. We are also SAP Gold Partner, and also for the Google Cloud we're certified, and we have our consultants have over 50 certificates. So for us, I'm Kirsten, and I'm a senior analytics consultant. So I'm a specialist in BW4, Datasphere, which I will introduce to you the updates, and also the S/4HANA embedded analytics. Katrin is our professional analytics consultant, so she's more into the SAC part from BI and for the BI and analytics environment. And in the SAC, she does the planning and analytic applications. So we will start directly with the Datasphere. So probably you saw in the introduction that I will talk about the different flows, because we have now 3 different flows in the Datasphere: transformation, replication, and the data flow. And that you will understand when to use what, I just want to introduce to you the transformation flow and the replication flow. And after that, I compared these 3 or these 2 with the data flow. So the transformation flow is for data replication, and I call that one middleweight data replication tool, because you have some capabilities to apply transformations. As you can see on the left side, we have a join there between 2 tables. We can use filters, we can use aggregations, we can calculate a currency conversion, for example. And we load data from one table to, or like the source tables, to a target table. And we can do this by an initial load or a delta load. And with the delta load, we get the new data capture tables in the Datasphere. And these data capture tables has now 2 additional columns: the change type and the change date. So for example, if a record is deleted, you can see that on the change type that is deleted, and you see the change date. For the transformation flow, you have 2 steps you have to apply. The first one is the transformation itself that you can see on the left side. It looks similar to the graphical view, if you're familiar with that. And the second step is that you have to define a new table that we can store our transformation in that one. The replication flow is, as the name says, also for data replication, but I call that one a lightweight data replication tool, because you don't have the abilities or that kind of capabilities for transformation that you have in the transformation flow. It is more a one-to-one data replication, because also on the left-hand side, you have your source table, and then you can do some filters, some projections, but not too much. And then on the right side, you have your target table. Also, for the replication flow, you have the initial and the delta replication as you have in the transformation flow. And as you have more one-to-one transformation in here, the typical use case for that is a mass data replication. We have different types of source systems for the replication flow. Normally it is a table with a unique key, CDS views, for example, from the S/4HANA system, and ODP objects, for example, from the SAP BW systems. But you can also use the business suites or HANA, Datasphere itself, or the Azure SQL. For the target systems, we have like two kind of types for that. We can store, of course, the data in the Datasphere itself, but also into the HANA or HANA Data Lake files. Additionally, we have like new premium connections or storage that are external, so they're non-SAP storage. For example, the Google Cloud BigQuery, Google Cloud Storage, Azure Data Lake Storage, and the AWS. So I will just show you these two transformations in a live demo. So I will share my screen with you. So now you can see the Datasphere, and I already in one space, I call that one sales and billing document flows. And with that, I can tell you that the SAP Datasphere has now a new business content for the sales, and I will just introduce to you that one, because the new thing is that we have an analytic model on top. The old one just had the analytical data set, which is not used anymore. So I have built that one up, and I will just show you a quick the lineage about that model. So on the right side, we have the analytic model for the sales document item, which is the reporting layer. Then we have the fact view for the harmonization layer, an integration layer, and the last one is a local table. So this is probably different also to further business content, because this is not a remote table to the S/4HANA system, because this is now the business content for sales from the S4 systems. This is a local table. So at the moment, the local table is empty. So we need something to load the data from the S4HANA system, which is the CDS view at this time, and to load the data into that local table. And the way you use it is the replication flow. So we will build up a replication flow for that sales document item local table. So I will jump back into my space, and as you can see, we have now the new replication flow, and I can click on that, and you can see now the wizard for our replication flow. So at first we have to select our source connection. I will click on that, and then I will take our S/4HANA connection. Then I can choose the type of source. It's called container. And now you can see some of the sources we have for the replication flow. For example, I said we have ODP extractors available and the CDS views. And the content is based on CDS views, so I will click on that, say select, and then I have to search for my CDS views. And the good thing is that in the local table, the technical name of the local table has the CDS view that is used in the technical name. So it's like easy, just copy paste the CDS view name, and then you can search for this. So I know that it's a sales CDS view, and we are in the analytical part. So I just will open you that you can see what kind of structure is used here. Takes a bit of a time because you have a lot of CDS views in sales. So I would just search for the sales document item, highlight that and say next. And then I can just say add to selection, and then you just see the status if it's imported. And that's perfect because it failed. Awesome. I will just delete that and try it again. I'm so sorry. That is like typical for a webinar. So another try. I go to sales and distribution, sales analytics, and give it another try. I tried this one in the morning, so I hope it will work now again. Nope. Okay, so I'm really sorry about that. I think we just have some problems, but I will just show you because I prepared one replication flow for the billing document. So I will just show you that one. I'm really sorry about that. But if you've gone through the wizard, you get this kind of screen. And on the left-hand side, you can see the source. So we are now in the billing document, so you can see your source object. And this is the CDS view. And here you can see the connection we used for the S/4HANA system. What I did now is that we have our target object, and that for that I have to search for another connection. You can click on this one here, and then you can see all the connections for the target, which is now the Datasphere itself, because we want to load data into the Datasphere. For the target objects, now we have the capabilities to click on more and say map to existing target objects, because our local table is already in the system, so we don't need a new table. We can take an existing one. And if you click on that, you can get all the local tables that are already in the system. And you can see here the billing document item and also the sales document item. If you click on that one, we're in the billing document item now, you can see the target object here. So if you now want to map all the columns, you have under Edit the button here. And now you can see all the transformation capabilities in the replication flow, which is not that much. So for example, you have a filter. So if you want to set a filter on creation date and say it should be greater than the 1st of January, so only this year, you can put it there, say add expression. And that's kind of it for the filters. And then you have the mapping capabilities where you can see the source columns, so from the CDS view, from the S4, and the target column from our local table. And you see that we also have the data type, for example, here for the target, and it's not changeable. So you're not allowed to change some data types. In the transformation flow, you would have the capabilities. You can now click on Automap. So all the columns are mapped from source to target. You have to give it a name for the projection, and then you can say save. After deploying, you can also run the replication flow. And for the moment, the billing document item is able to have delta. So the delta capture here is on, and you have to do this in the local table itself. So I will just show you that because we're now in the billing document. This is the billing document item local table, and the delta capture is on, and you see here we have a new delta capture table. And that's why we can have a load type in the replication flow, initial and delta. And if you run that, it runs one initial load, and then each hour you get the delta load. All right, so as second one, I want to show you a transformation flow, and I hope this one works. So we click on new transformation flow, and now you have a kind of different wizard. And I said that we have 2 steps, and you see the 2 steps underneath. We have to define a transformation, and then we have to create a new table. So let's define our transformation. And now you probably can see that this is the graphical view. So let's search for our local table. I will stay in the billing document item. I can just drag and drop that one here. And then you can see I have all these functionalities for the transformation. So for example, I can have a function because I know that in the local table, some dates have the wrong data type. For example, it's a creation date. So I can click on that and say to date, the validate, and then it just gets me the data type date. And I also can do that for the billing document. Date to date. Validate that. And I have some nice calculations here. I can also use the same filter as in the replication flow. It's a different kind of filter. I say creation date should be greater than the 1st of January this year. And for example, I can use also some projections. I say I don't need a creation time, I can exclude that one. So probably this is familiar for you from the graphical view. Now I have to go back because we're done with our transformation, and the transformation is saved automatically. And now I can click on this second field and say plus, create a new table. And then I have to give the table a name. This is billing document item. And I will just edit the technical name for a local table. And now I can say deploy. And now this is maybe confusing. That was the technical name or the name for the table, and this one is here for the transformation flow. So we have transformation flow and say billing document item. And then I can just say save. And after it is deployed, I also have to run the transformation flow that you can get the replicated data. So I will not wait until it's done, but I hope you trust me that if it's ready, the run button will appear, and then you can just click on run. And then you have the abilities to go to the monitor, and in the monitor, you have the column for flow monitor, and then all your runs from the transformation and the replication flow are listed here. So now I will go back to our slides because I said to you that I want to compare also the different types of flows. So we have here our replication flow, I call that one lightweight. We have the transformation flow, which is middleweight, and we have the data flow, which I called heavyweight. So of course, a one-to-one data replication is able in all of the three flows because it's, kind of simple. Then the delta load. I already said to you that delta is able in the replication flow and in the transformation flow because we have our new delta tables in Datasphere. But we can't load deltas in the data flow. If you do have some complex data transformation, the replication flow is not able to do that. We have only one-to-one replication in here and some light data transformation. But complex transformations are able in the transformation flow and also in the data flow. The last 2 points are only able in the data flow because we can do snapshots in our data flow, and also we can do Python scripting in our data flow. So I hope that gives you an overview about the 3 different flows we have in the Datasphere, and you know now what to do where. And with that, I will hand over to Katrin for the SAC update. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kirsten. And as we already said, in the remaining time, I want to give you an overview of the, let's say, most interesting features which came with the latest release for the SAP Analytics Cloud. And the first really interesting feature I want to show you are the so-called composite widgets. So composites are reusable widgets you can create. For example, if you, in all of your optimized stories, you want to have the same header with your own logo and your corporate design, then you can create a composite for that and reuse these composite widgets in all of your stories you want. So that's really, that makes it really flexible for you, but it also simplifies the creation. So you have to create your header or your panels only once, and then can use it in all of your stories with optimized story experience. And also, if there is a change to your header, for example, then you can, exchange the logo, and automatically all of the changes are visible wherever you use your composites. So composites are can be added in the story, let's say, environment. So if you can see that in the screenshot, if you go to stories, you now have the option to create your composites there. And I will show you later how that looks like. Then once you created a composite, they are stored in the file repository. So also if you create your composite on one tenant, and of course you can also transport that to your other tenant if you want to use it there as well. And as well as other elements, also composites then have their own authorization. So you can say some specific user groups shouldn't be able to use them if you want to do that. But yeah, as I said, we're going to have a look at that in more detail later in the live demonstration. So the next feature I want to show you, or the next area of features, are from enterprise planning. And also there we have quite a few interesting new features. And the first one is the support of if statements for an exact match. So for those of you who have been using advanced formulas and data actions so far, know that so far it has only been possible to use, let's say, in an if statement only one equal sign. So if A equals B, then do some calculation. But now it's also possible to do this if statement for an exact match. So this, let's say double equal sign. So if you use this if statement, then also the calculations are only executed for these exact matches instead of all elements. So you also don't have to use a for each loop anymore, which you had to do before if you were using this, let's say, normal if statement to get the same results. but also that we will have a look at later. The second thing I want to highlight are the story APIs for the planning area customization, which are now available. So what you can do with that is you can customize your planning area. For example, if you want to remove some filters on the planning area, or you want to add some filters, you have the options to make your own custom planning area, and then also with a specific API start the editing of this custom planning area to have your planning more specified. And the third and last area I want to highlight are the enhancements regarding data modeling. So also here we have quite a few new features, and the first one is quite interesting for those of you who have been using parent-child hierarchies in the past. There was a restriction to only create parent-child hierarchies with about 150,000 members, but now with the new release, it's possible to create hierarchies with 1 million members, which is quite an enhancement. Additionally to that, we also have the option now to make a combination of formulas like lookup, restrict, compound annual growth rates. So if you have been, for example, creating several calculated measures to get, let's say, one result with a combination of them, you now don't have to create so many measures anymore. You can combine these formulas to get, let's say, the same result with less calculated measures. So that's really useful. And another new formula we have is the new dynamic time formula, so-called 2 periods, which allows you to create running totals by specified time granularity. So you can use that with also a lookup or restrict formula, and say you want to have a running total by week or by month, or whatever you choose to calculate it on. But that being said, I also directly want to go into the live demo and show you some of the features in more detail. Okay, so you should be able to see the SAC now. And the first thing I want to show you are the composites. So I already created a composite beforehand, and you see it looks very similar to the normal stories and optimized story experience. So what I have here, I created a header with our logo and simply some placeholders for a title and a subtitle I want to use later on. And what I have to do now in order to, let's say, make this composite interact with my story later on, I have to create here some functions. So in this case, I only have 2 functions in order to change the title and the subtitle. And to give you a little impression how that looks like, if I go to my first function, what I have here, I simply say it's for setting my title, and I use an argument, which you will see later on in my story, where I include the composite. That this argument then allows me to insert a text dynamically, and inside my function, I simply say what should happen. So I want to apply a text to my title, and the text is then later on stated in my argument. So once I have created the composite, I can go to my story. And in this case, I prepared here an empty page. And then if you want to include a composite, you go to Assets. And on the bottom of the assets, you have the composites. So if you created a new one, you can simply import it with the import button. But in this case, I already have it in here. So I drag and drop it on my page. Let's put that a little bit to the corner. And as you can see, now it still says here title and subtitle. Let me quickly change that. And of course, if I now go to the view mode of my story, I don't want to have it say title and subtitle, but I want to have a specific name. So what I do now, I go to the outline and go to the on-initialization script of this page and address my my composite. And then if I go to the functions, what you see here is the set title function I've just added in my composite area. So I can now use this function. And in here, you again see the argument I also added in my composite. So with this, I can simply say what the text should look like. So I say, for example, sales planning. And if I now save that and go to the view mode, then what you can see here, it doesn't say title anymore, but it says sales planning. Of course, I didn't change the subtitles so far, but it would work the same way as I already have a function for that. I can simply use that one. And yeah, it works the same way wherever you use it. So I have a second page here where I use the same composites, but of course, I can give it a different name in its specific script. So yeah, that's quite an interesting feature, I think. And the second thing I want to show you is the new if statements we have. So for that, I already prepared a data action with an advanced formula. And just to give you a short impression what it should do. So what I want to do is I want to check if the profit center or the profit center is equal to the attribute in the product dimension. And if that's true, then I want to simply copy the actuals to my budget version. That's all. And as I said, we usually had the option to use this one equal sign. And then if I want to get the same result as with the new if statement, I would have to use a for each loop. But in this case, I just want to show you what's the difference if I don't use a for each loop compared with the new if statements. So I will leave it as it is and go back to my story. And to show you that, I have prepared here a little data set. And what I have here some combinations of profit center and product. And you can see here the attributes. So in this case, all of the attributes are the same as the profit center. Only the one I highlighted is not the same. So in this case, with my first, let's say, formula, I would expect to copy all of them. So if I just run that. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, also the one which usually wouldn't fit into this if statement is copied because I don't use the for each loop. So if one condition is met, then all of the statements or all of the calculations are executed. But if I now go back and quickly use the other statement with a double equal sign, so it's the same thing, just with a double equals. If I save that and then quickly revert. Okay. And then use it again. Okay, so you clearly see the difference. So now this one line which doesn't fit to the profit center because it's profit center 4 and here it says it's number 3. This one isn't copied because my if statement is looking only for the exact matches and then only calculates also for these exact matches. So yeah, that's quite useful. And yeah, with that, I already want to go back to the presentation. And yeah, we now would have the time to answer your questions. So if there are any questions right now, you can still write them in the chat. otherwise, I will have a look in the chat already if there are some questions. Okay, yeah, I can see some questions. And the first question is, where can the schedule of the delta flows be changed? I think that's a question for you, Kirsten.
Yeah, the flows is my one. So at the moment, the delta from the flows, or like the schedule is fixed. So I said you have one initial load and then the delta loads, and it's at the moment fixed to 60 minutes. So each 60 minutes, the delta load is running. And at the moment, we don't have the capability to change that to once per day or every 30 minutes. So it's 60 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten. Then let's see, we have a second question. Can composites be used in classic applications as well, or only optimized mode? Yeah, that's true. It's only possible right now to use the composites in the optimized story experience. So if you're using an application which is in the classic mode, let's say, then you wouldn't have the option to add these, but in the optimized story experience, you can use them. And then we had a third and last question: how are errors handled in the Datasphere runs?
Yeah, again for me. So we have two options here. If a data flow or transformation or application flow runs on an arrow, we can put that on automated recovery. So it runs on an arrow, it just tries again the next time. Or we have the, how it's called, resilience functionalities. So it just, yeah, leave it as it is as an arrow.
Okay, thank you, Kirsten. And as right now there are no further questions in the chat, I will directly go on to the next slide. But if in the end, after our webinar, there are still any questions, feel free to contact us. You have here our email address and our contact details. So if there are any further questions you want to ask, please feel free to write us an email or write us a message. We're happy to answer them afterwards. And yeah, with that, we're already at the end of our webinar. Thanks a lot to everyone who participated. We hope you enjoyed the webinar and learned a lot about the new features. And yeah, hope to see you again soon in one of our other webinars, and wishing you a good rest of the day. Goodbye.
Also from my side, thank you and goodbye.